Hello again and welcome to the channel. More motorcycling fun today, and you've probably seen the title of the video, why I'll never buy a restored motorcycle again, and here's the reason why. Now if I sound a bit grumpy today, it's probably because I am. This is my Yamaha 200 that I bought remotely. It did come from, let's say, inverted commas, a reputable source. But it's not until you really start getting into the nitty-gritty of these restorations, fully restored I think it was described as, that you begin to realise the pitfalls. And talking of pitfalls, the first thing that you've probably seen was the forks, which I've had to have re-chromed because all the pitted parts were all round the back of the leg stanchions, which I didn't spot from the photo, so that was a bit annoying. And there were a few other tiny bits which were a problem. The main one being I was getting quite a pool of two-stroke oil underneath the carburetor if I left it for any length of time. But let me just go back, because as you can see, this feed to the cylinders from the two-stroke automatic lube system is removed, and I'll come back to that a bit in a minute. But because I wanted to replace these clips here, thinking that this is where the leaks were, and mainly from the other side, but I'm just showing you this one for convenience, I decided that I would drain this two-stroke tank down. Now I was suspecting the feed from this tank wasn't particularly good, so the first thing you do is remove the seat, and this is where I came across the first weirdness. Right, so this is the seat, and just here, this little bracket is where a stay goes. So a little stay comes up, so when you tilt the seat up, it stays clipped up, and then you push it back and the seat comes down. Now my seat didn't have that. Well, you know, things do go missing, so I wasn't too worried. But then I thought, well, I'll have a look at the bottom of the seat and see why this particular mechanism here that holds the seat on didn't really work. It kept sort of springing off, and you can see how I've mangled it a bit trying to bend it back in again. That needs repainting. But when you start looking at the bottom of the seat, I started seeing this weirdness. Now here we go with this thing. See how this bracket is actually moved to the left, and the same with the hinge position on this one and the hinge position on this one, which is all a bit weird. The pattern of the seat cover is correct for the era. The seat is in really good condition. It looks like a seat from a 200. I was thinking, that's a bit weird. Is it the tank? Now the tank did look a bit odd, because I knew that from when I first got it, that the badges are in the right place, and the guys spent a lot of money on the repaint of the tank and the parts, and that's been done, I think it was by Dream Machine, and he paid a lot of money for it. Now a reputable company like that, you would think, would check the graphics before painting it. It's not difficult to go onto the internet and see how the tank should look. Now this swirl at the front here should end about here, so this makes it look odd with it coming forward. So if you were entering this in a concourse, that would get picked up straight away. These are plastic reproduction badges, which look really good. They do look good, so I'm not worried about that. The position of this electric sign is wrong. There's an indent in the tank here on both sides, which should have 200 written on there, and then the electric sticker goes underneath. So spent a fortune on the paintwork and got it wrong. It's not a concourse bike, but if it does ever did go in a show, it would be a bit irritating because they'd spot that straight away. So now I'm thinking, well, is this tank right? And I happened to see one for sale on eBay, and I was negotiating for it, we're talking about it, but he wanted £750 for a new old stock tank. But when I decided I wasn't going to buy it, he was happy for me to go over, because he has quite a few two-stroke bikes in his shed, and have a look at it. So I went across and we confirmed that this is the correct tank. I think there were two shapes. One was more like the CS3, and this is the 5, which was the sort of in-between hybrid between the CS3 and the RD200. And it's clear that this seat is wrong, and we've had a look at that, and this is actually off the 125 model, which makes you realise why that seat stay's gone. Now that's a little bit annoying because that seat stay's probably languishing in a box somewhere, but let's not get too hung up about that. I mean, it looks aesthetically okay, it does fit sort of, but if I could get a new seat, the correct seat, then I would do, but hey ho. So when it comes to the rest of the mechanics here, when you look at this banjo here, which is like the main feed from the two-stroke into the cylinder head, which keeps the pistons lubricated, any leaks or any problems with this would lead to engine seizure. And it's a pretty good job I did spot those banjos missing, because if I hadn't, and that had an air bubble in and it wasn't getting sufficient lubrication into those cylinders, that would have been top end engine seizure more than likely, and I would have had to rebuild the engine, and I don't really want to do that. I want to get on with my Norton and the little Yamaha that Tina's building, sorry, the little Honda that Tina's building, the PC50. I hope you're watching that one as well. And this is why I'll never buy another restored bike, because the guy's gone to all the trouble of spending all that money on the paint and the aesthetics of it, and yes, it did start straight off the button, but the mechanical parts, it really worries me. I mean, there's a poor example under here. I mean, and it's only nitpicking, I appreciate that, but it's the attention to detail. It doesn't take a lot of time. You see how this tank mount, the rubber here, is all squished round? All I needed to do was just put a bigger washer on there, and then that wouldn't look so bad there. I mean, it does the job, but you've got a hex nut here, sorry, you've got an Allen nut here and a hex nut here, and on this side you've got a screw. Why not use the same ones? Anyway, let me just calm down, Graham, calm down. This banjo is the main thing. I thought it was these pipes leaking, but I've tried to get them off and I can't get them off. But then it occurred to me, wait a minute, aren't these supposed to have some sort of seal on them to stop them leaking? And guess what? Yes, of course they have. So these are the parts that have arrived from Yambits. I've got the correct sealers, so I'm going to put these on, and they need to be put on these banjos on both sides. So I'm going to crack on and do that. That's the bolt just there where it goes onto and feeds. But it is important to note that once you've mucked about, oh look, I've dropped these on the floor now. It's important to remember that if you are going to do anything with a two-stroke system, that you do actually drain the system down, or at least bleed the system, and that is done through this part here. So I'll just whip that cover off and show you what is contained within. Says me about mechanical aptitude, and I'm using a flat blade screwdriver, but to be honest, I have taken this off before with the correct JIS screw. So these are just put back on so you can see what's under here. So this is what lies beneath. This is your two-stroke pump, which looks pretty healthy. These are the outlets going up to the cylinder, the two red ones. And to be fair to the guy who's built this, yeah, good play, because he's used clear hose on here, and I don't mind that. It's not authentic, but at least you can see the flow is correct. This is the feed into the pump from the tank, so that's not an issue. Yeah, there was a little bit of oil down there, but to be fair, I've had this cover off, so it could have been leaking from that banjo. And then what you have to do is to undo this screw here once you've filled and primed the tank up again. And the actual pump, there's this knurled plastic nut here, or plastic wheel should I say, and you can turn that and you see the pumps moving in and out at the front there, and that pressurizes the system. So you undo that and you keep turning that wheel with a full tank until there's no more air in the system, and that's all you do. So I'm going to crack on with that, because I want to get this bike off the bench so I can get back to doing the Norton. That's all I'm going to show. There's no point showing the air. You can, it's pretty obvious there's any air coming out. Get this bike all buckled back up again, and then I'll get back to the Norton and get that wired up. I'm going to get that back on the road before summer, certainly. So that's it. That's why I'm not going to ever buy another fully restored motorbike. I've been bitten twice. I got bitten on the BSA as well. Part of the bits were missing on that BSA over there, the Spitfire. That's all ready to run for summer again. And so yeah, this is the mess that's in the garage over the winter. These fuel lines are completely brittle and rock hard. So while I was on getting those seals for the banjos for the two-stroke, I thought I'd treat myself to a new fuel line set, again from Yambits, yambits.com. They're near York, really good for two-stroke Yamahas, the older stuff. And this is the original type of, I think it's polypropylene, no, neoprene, I don't know, whatever the rubber is. It's the original type of pipe used on a lot of Japanese motorbikes, and it's a lot softer and more pliable, and it shouldn't harden up like the other stuff. So I treated myself to that, and so save on postage. So I'll crack on and finish this off. I just need to fill that tank up, do the bleed, and then that job's all done, and I can get the Norton back on the bench. Hopefully I can have a good ride on this bike over summer. Well, so that's it, rant over. I'm going to go back in the house now and have a coffee. Then I'll come out, bleed that system, and get this bike back off the bench. But it is cold today, so I probably won't. So that's another little video done and dusted. I haven't been posting an awful lot at the moment. We've been away on holiday, and some of the background work on the little PC50 we're doing is really boring. You know, rubbing stuff down takes forever, and it would make a really boring video. Perhaps I should go for the title of most boring video ever. Hang on, better not, I might already have that. I know everybody says it, but it does make a huge difference to us YouTubers if you do like and subscribe, or even just subscribe or like or post a comment. It all helps with the algorithm. It's a non-commercial site, but I do like to feel loved. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.